It is List Monday. What's the order of the best head coaches in the SEC, the all-time Vols quarterback, and the top 5 transfers? We're going to rank a whole lot here on a Monday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. We got a fun show to get into here today. We're going to rank the SEC head coaches in honor of Kirby Smart's $13 million extension. Is he worth that much money? And where does Josh Heupel fall into those rankings? All-time Vols quarterback, a conversation we had last week, and going to get Boogie Bentley's help on that one. And then top 5 transfers. It's going to be a fun, fast-paced Monday list season here as we continue on throughout the offseason. I got Boogie Bentley on from the Talkin VAWLS Network as you listen to us for free, watching us and downloading us wherever you get your podcasts. This is Locked On Vols, your team every single day, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and appreciate you everydayers for being here. All right, so we got all that out of the way. Boogie, appreciate you coming on, man. We're gonna have some fun. I know I'm on the road this week, and so I wanted to kind of have an easier show a little bit. So I thought we'd do some rankings here on a Monday morning. SEC head coaches, all-time Vols quarterback, and I think that's the one we're going to look forward to the most because I did that exercise last week, and I told you about it, and it sounds fun. And then top 5 transfers for Tennessee. You ready to go?
You're giving me severe anxiety. If you had any idea how much time I spent on the quarterback list alone, because there's so many different ways you can look at it. And it's supposed to be fun, right? Like I went and read the thread on the general's quarters last night, and I'm like, man, it's supposed to be fun, but it's arguments, it's yelling, nobody's happy, your list is wrong. How dare you? How dare you put Hendon Hooker in there for accuracy? But I'm excited, we're going to have some fun.
Did you see that guy that literally said anyone who doesn't have Peyton Manning for accuracy is a crime punishable by death? I'm like, all right, well, I got to get myself in order. I mean, like,
hey, what's your final meal? What's your final meal? Because your life's over.
And I mean, clearly, like, if in the way that I did it last week, it's like, well, you can only use one trait from one quarterback. I mean, if I could use 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things from Peyton Manning, I probably would because Peyton Manning is, well, the GOAT. But let's start there because, I mean, of course, I think that's going to be the most fun. Obviously, last week on my show or on the show, I did Smarts, Peyton Manning, because I don't think you can really get any better than that. Arm strength, Joe Milton. I know a lot of people said Tony Robbins could air it out and everything, and I know that's probably a good one to kind of put in that conversation as well. Accuracy, Hendon Hooker. Yes, Peyton Manning was accurate, but man, Hendon Hooker his accuracy was elite in 2022, and overall, he threw a total of 5 interceptions in 2 years. It's pretty solid. Legs of Josh Dobbs, not just because he could scramble, but because they called design run plays for him. Clutch factor, Casey Clausen, the Iceman, and I just threw in the demeanor one, the swag, if you will, and I put Pat Ryan because maybe it's because I'm around him more now, but he walks in a room and he knows he's the best there ever is. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I want in a quarterback. So let's kind of work down this list here for you. Boogie, Smarts. Who would you go with?
Let me say this first. If I sat down and I had not seen your list, I didn't know who you picked. My list would have been identical to your list, other than swag. I would have gone Nico. Otherwise, I would have gone your exact list. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put a spin on it. I'm going to go a different direction. Smarts, you say football IQ, right? It's going to be Peyton Manning. So I'm going to go a different direction than you. Smarts, going Josh Dobbs. Aerospace engineering major, we'll go Josh Dobbs for Smarts.
Okay.
Moving on down to arm strength. Again, I would have gone Joe Milton, and I see the arguments in the general's quarters, and it's like, yeah, but he doesn't throw a catchable ball, and yeah, he's not accurate, and yeah, it's this and that. The question is arm strength. It would be Joe, but I'm going to go a different direction, a guy that I grew up idolizing, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, Heath Shuler, for arm strength.
Okay.
So accuracy. Yeah, and this was the argument too, was how dare you go with Hendon Hooker for accuracy. Peyton Manning, we'll go with his accuracy, his ability to place the ball anywhere. Like you said, you kind of get the vibe, you're only going to use each player for one thing. So I'm going Peyton Manning for accuracy. Legs, Condridge, Holloway, seen enough clips. The Tony Robinson comment, he played from 82 to 85. I was 1 year old in '82. So you're going to lean more towards guys that you grew up watching, or you had the opportunity to actually see in person. But I'm going to break that rule and go with Condridge Holloway for legs because I've seen enough clips. Clutch, I'm sticking with you on Casey Clausen. He's the Iceman for a reason, other than his looks. But I'm going Casey Clausen. Swag, I'm going Nico, man. I think Nico's just got that it factor. He's a guy that he's confident in who he is. The pajama pants on the 7-on-7 circuit. I like Nico for swag, and I think we could probably throw him on some of these other things as he moves throughout his career.
Yeah, no doubt. Once we see him out there playing, and we see him, be the starting quarterback for a couple of games in the season, and we get, he's been the recruit, the signee, the second coming, but he hadn't been the starting quarterback yet. And so I think once we get in there and see a little bit of him, we can maybe move him into one of these categories. I wanted to work Heath Shuler and Condridge Holloway in here really bad. I kind of wanted to work. I even wanted to work Tyler Bray in here because he just aired it out, man. He had such a good arm, and that 2012 offense was really, really good. He had some really good receivers, but only so many slots we could put it in there. Like Heath Shuler, I feel like would be so good in this offense with Josh Heupel in this era of college football. Don't you agree? Like, he was one of the biggest busts in NFL history, but one of the greatest. I was reading an article the other day, and it said, like, you can't be a huge bust if you weren't a great college player. And boy, Heath Shuler was such a great college player.
Yeah, he was he was a superstar, man. At that, like, growing up, that was the guy. Everybody loved Heath Shuler. And then I was a Redskins fan, too, so him being a bust in the NFL, it's like, oh, my gosh. But, yeah, and like, you're looking at a list. Who is the best of the best when it comes to football IQ, arm strength, accuracy? I think when you look at a total package, Heath Shuler was a total package. I was trying to find a way to work Andy Kelly in here because that's the guy. I talked about Tony Robinson being a year old when he was the quarterback at Tennessee, but Andy Kelly was the first guy that he was late 80s, early 90s. I was starting to really watch football at the time versus it just being on the TV. Andy Kelly, I always say, one of my favorite balls of all time, if not my favorite ball of all time. He's the guy that I was in the backyard pretending to be when I was a kid.
Gosh, I'm ashamed to say. That was Eric Cain for me when I was little, and then I grew up and I worked with him for 5 years, and I'm like, just kidding, Eric. You're a good guy. Any other category I should have put on here? What would you add on here to get more quarterbacks on this list, I guess?
Oh, my gosh.
Because, my terminology, my phrasing, you can name these things differently. But, like, I don't know. In order to get more quarterbacks on here, what other categories could I make, I guess?
I think it's a perfect list. Like, I think you've got everything covered. I don't know what else you would add. Like, when I think of Casey Clausen, I think of winning on the road, right? Almost more than clutch, but I still put him in that clutch category.
When I think of Casey Clausen, I think of the Florida Gators, literally.
Right.
Like
of course.
I don't think Tennessee quarterback. Casey Clausen, Florida. Why? Because he beat him twice on the road in the swamp.
And I think he only lost one game on the road his entire career.
Wow.
But I think he struggled also in bowl games. It's all running together. But I almost put Hendon in there for clutch, just for that Alabama game alone, man. I love hearing Josh Heupel say Hendon came to the sideline. It's like, what do you want to do? I want to go win the dang game, man. That's clutch. I don't know. I think it's a perfect list. I think it's a great list. It opens up a bunch of conversations. People may like to yell at each other about it, but it's fun, man. It's fun to talk about old quarterbacks, who you liked and why you liked them, why they fit in there. Great list. Great off-season topic.
Yeah, just a fun conversation to have in the off season, and there's no right or wrong answer. We can debate until we're blue in the face, but I think these are really, really good lists. So one more time from me: smarts Peyton Manning, arm strength Joe Milton, accuracy Hendon Hooker, legs Josh Dobbs, clutch factor Casey Clausen, demeanor swag Pat Ryan. What was yours?
Don't at me, bro, because I'm changing my list off of Cainer. Smarts, Josh Dobbs, arm strength, Heath Shuler, accuracy, Peyton Manning, legs, Condridge Holloway, clutch factor, Casey Clausen, swag, demeanor, Nico Iamaleava.
I like it. Hey, when we come back, Kirby Smart got a contract extension late last week. Where does Josh Heupel rank in terms of the 16 now? Yes, 16 head coaches in the SEC. That is coming up next. We continue on with a Monday morning Locked On Vols. All right, I want to tell you guys about my friends over at Monopoly Go. Got to hit pause here for a second, talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You've already been talking about that, but there's just so much good stuff in the game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you can unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel with the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, with Monopoly Go, it feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. You can include your own little mini games. You can go for treasure hunts. And as always, there's new timed events where you can help win big, like massive multiplayers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, download it today. It is for free in the Google Play Store and in the Apple Store. Download Monopoly Go. It's for free in Google Play and the App Store for iPhones. All right, welcome back here to a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Obviously, I'm on the road this week, so a little bit of a makeshift setup here in a hotel room. We got my guy Boogie Bentley on from the Talkin VAWLS Network. So Kirby Smart, $13 million. I'm not mistaken if I read that correctly. He's obviously the highest paid coach in college football. Surpassing Dabo Swinney by $1.5 million. Does that sound right, Boogie?
Sure.
I
have no idea.
A lot of money. When you get up to that many millions, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's a lot of money. It's all the same, right? Obviously, Kirby Smart is the best coach in the SEC, but let's work ourselves back here, 16-1. I'll give you my list. You give me your list on how we would rank these head coaches in the Southeastern Conference. Number 16, I'd go Clark Lee. 15, Jeff Lebby. 14th, Sam Pittman. 13th, Billy Napier. 12th, Shane Beamer. We'll go fours here. What would your top or your last 4 or 5 be?
Man, this is fun too. This is fun because there's so many different ways to spin it. Because when you mention, I'll go ahead and bury the lead with the top 3 for me. When you mention head coach, how do you define who's the greatest head coach in the SEC? It's got to be by national championship appearances to me. Only 3 coaches in the SEC have coached in the national championship game. They're going to be at the top of this list. So if you've never been a head coach before, you're unproven. I don't know where to put you in this list. But 16 for me, I'm with you, Clark Lee. 15, Sam Pittman. I struggled with that one because he did have the 9-win season in 2021. 14, Billy Napier. 13, Hugh Freeze, because I don't know what to expect from Hugh Freeze at Auburn. How far are we going? Did you say 12?
Yeah, go to 12.
Mike Elko, Texas A&M. 16-9 at Duke. Is that going to translate to the SEC? Like, it's tough. It's tough.
I think you forgot Jeff Lebby, though, right? Because he's never been a head coach.
I know. That's why I'm breaking my own rules. I've got him at 11. Him at 11 because I think he has a ton of potential. I don't know that I feel that Mike Elko has a ton of potential. And people will argue. When I tell you where Steve Sarkisian's at on my list compared to where some of these other people have him, I don't know, man. It's how I feel.
Yeah, spoilers. I got Steve Sarkisian at number 2 on my list. Maybe that's pretty generous for the brand new coach in the Southeastern Conference. It's interesting, Jeff Lebby, I think he's got a ton of potential as well. Obviously, he comes from the Heupel coaching tree. He's been a part of a lot of successful offenses with Heupel and, of course, Lane Kiffin. Spent some time with Oklahoma and Brent Venables. Now he's getting a chance to be the head coach of Mississippi State. We'll see what happens. But to me, it's like, okay, well, you've never coached in the SEC. You've never been a head coach before. I got to see something. I'm going to put you in front of Clark Lee just because Clark Lee, just his situation around him determines kind of where his ranking is going to be at Vanderbilt, obviously. Even though a couple years ago he beat Florida and Kentucky before playing Tennessee, and then Tennessee, drubbed him 56-0. I like Sam Pittman so much, but he's clearly on the hot seat. So he's got to be towards the bottom of the rankings. Billy Napier, the 13th one for me. I mean, Sunbelt Billy, like, it's fine. You can be a great head coach and have success, but when you move into the SEC, obviously it's a bigger stage, and I cannot believe all the offseason rankings that you'd see from CBS Sports or 247 or on the, whoever was putting them out there, saying, oh, well, Billy Napier's ahead of Josh Heupel already in the SEC in terms of coaching rankings. What are you talking about? Dude's never coached in the SEC.
What?
Yeah. Like, I just saw Josh Heupel go 7-5 and do some things and have a top 10 offense in this league. Hadn't seen Billy Napier do anything, so that's kind of going about where I expected. Shane Beamer's losing some steam for me, so he's at 12. Mike Elko for me is at 11 because, you're right. He's never been a head coach in this league. He has coordinated. He knows the environment. He knows the wackiness of College Station. That's a big thing as well. And at Duke, he did go to back-to-back bowl games, and that's obviously a challenge at a place like Duke for football. So I've got Mike Elko at number 11, albeit he's never been a head coach in this league. Number 10, I got Hugh Freeze, much for the reasons like you. We've seen him do it in this league before. Different situation. A couple years later, last year was kind of hotter cold a little bit. Certainly lost some games they should have won at Auburn, but just year number 1, if he can stay clean, I'm sure that he'll be able to do some things, but still it's going to be towards the bottom of my list. Brent Venables at number 9. I think he's got a really, really good team around him everywhere he's gone, when he's been at Clemson, when he's been at Oklahoma. Yes, I know you've got to recruit, and he's a really, really good recruiter. I just don't think he, in terms of chops of being a head coach, there's several around the country I think of before I think of Brent Venables. Number 8's Mark Stoops, maybe a little bit too high, but the consistency of what he's done at Kentucky year in and year out, it just is what it is. And then number 7, I'll go Eli Drinkwitz, large part because of the success he had last year in the really, really good year. So from number 11, I got Elko, 10 Freeze, 9 Venables, 8 Stoops, 7 Drinkwitz. What about you?
So I've got Jeff Lebby at number 11. And, you look at Mike Elko and Jeff Lebby, and I've got him at 11 and 12. Elko, like you said, he's defensive coordinator at A&M. So he has coached in the league, even though he wasn't a head coach. But who would you rather have at Texas A&M? I think Jeff Lebby. You got to look at, what you've got around you, too. NIL, facilities. If you put Jeff Lebby at Texas A&M, he's going to have way more success. He's got a lot of work in front of him at Mississippi State as a first-time head coach. But you take him and you put him at Texas A&M, so I'm grading the coach, not necessarily the circumstances or the atmosphere. But regardless, Jeff Lebby at 11, Mark Stoops at 10. And I struggled with this because I think Mark Stoops is perfect for Kentucky, right? And he's been up and down, some 7-win season, like the last 2 years, 7 and 6. But guess what? It's Kentucky, so it doesn't really matter. If you can have a couple of 10-win seasons and then you go 7-6, 8-5, whatever the case may be, I think he's perfect for Kentucky. But is he elite? Is he one of the best coaches in the SEC?
No, he's not elite. He's done a hell of a job at Kentucky, but he is not. I mean, A&M tried to hire him. Fan base revolted. Kind of tells you what you need to know, right? I mean, he's not an elite coach in this country, in my opinion.
I mean, he's had 2 10-win seasons at Kentucky. I think that means something, and I think he's perfect for Kentucky. Now, I think their fans believe that he's had 4, 5, or 6 10-win seasons. They get a little excited about what Mark Stoops has actually done. At 9, Shane Beamer, and he's trending down, just an absolute clown. He's Butch Jones 2.0. Another guy that their fan base, you would think that they've won an SEC championship or they're trending towards a national title. The guy basically has a 500 record at South Carolina. Never won more than 8 games in a year. So Shane Beamer trending down. Sometimes I see these kids commit to South Carolina. I'm like, what in the world do they see in Shane Beamer? Absolute clown. Another clown. Number 8, Eli Drinkwitz. One good year, right? I mean, they won 11 games last year. We'll see what he does in 2024. Obviously beat the brakes off of Josh Heupel last year. Still another clown, a guy that I think will eventually trend down. Butch Jones 3.0 if Shane Beamer's 2.0. Number 7, Brent Venables, Oklahoma. I think he's unproven as a head coach. Again, what they win last year? 10 games? And I've had that Oklahoma game circled on the calendar in 2024. But I still think, as far as head coach, unproven. How high did you go? 6 or 7? Did you stop at 7?
I stopped at 7. Yeah, I stopped
All
at
right,
7.
Brent Venables at 7 for me.
Big takeaways from my 11 through 7 to your 11 through 7. You're a huge time Shane Beamer fan. Big Gamecocks guy. I can see that. I had Beamer at 12. You had him at like 6. So yeah, I'm just kidding. You had him at like 9 or whatever.
They are pretty high. Shane, they're right in the middle of the pack, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, literally the definition. I know you were talking about Drinkwitz a little bit there, but I mean, Shane Beamer's the definition of Butch Jones in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just the definition. I mean, it's everything that's going on over there. It's like, oh, I mean, I didn't work in the media then, and it's like, oh, I remember that. It was here. That was here. Number 6. I will go Josh Heupel. What he's done at 3 years here at Tennessee has been really, really impressive. Year 1 was nothing short of a miracle, in my opinion. Turning what you inherited into a 7-5 football team, a top 10 offense. We know about year 2 and how much fun that was and the success. And even in year 3, you have fans that are the world is ending because you're 8-4. And no, 8-4 should not be the standard. I'm not trying to say that, but do we remember the 15 years where it's like, yeah, I think Vols can be 8-4 this year. Yeah, 8-4. Bowl game 8-4 next year. Yeah, 8-4. You kill to have an 8-4 season, and that's the worst thing in the world this past year when Joe Milton and Tennessee went 8-4. So the standards have improved. The recruiting's improved. I think Tennessee's in a great spot, in the NIL space and the collectives and all that. So I think Josh Heupel, and obviously I think he's one of the best quarterback coaches in the country. So Josh Heupel there is at number 6. Kellen DeBoer is going to come in there at number 5, and I know that all the dude does is win, and I get that. And he competed for a national championship last year, and I get all that. But I tell you what, man, it's a whole nother ball game down here in the Southeastern Conference, and he's going to figure it out, or he's not, and he's going to be gone. It's hard for me to criticize a guy that just wins every game on a schedule. I think he's like 100 and something
104 and 12. 104 and 12 career.
Incredible. So I think he's a good coach, but again, I got to see it in this league every single Saturday. I've seen it from Brian Kelly, who's going to come in a couple of spots in a moment, and Brian Kelly adjusts pretty well. I had questions about him. Let's see it from Kellen DeBoer. So I have him at number 5 for right now. Number 4 is Lane Kiffin. Maybe that's too high, but I think Lane Kiffin is just such a good coach. He gets this league, obviously. He is this league's mascot, in my opinion. The fact that he lost both his coordinators and a really good quarterback a couple years ago, turned around, had a 10-win season, is what it is. I'm intrigued to see what his team's going to look like this year, but I think you'd be kidding yourself to say Lane Kiffin is not a top 5 coach in this league, because I think he is. So number 6, Josh Heupel. Number 5, Kellen DeBoer. Number 4 is Lane Kiffin, and then Brian Kelly's number 3. Steve Sarkisian's number 2, because I think that he is quiet. He silenced the narrative that Texas can't win the big ones, or Texas can't win year in and year out, and Texas can't control its boosters and all that. He's silenced it. He's dealt with the quarterback. There's not even been drama down there. He's dealt with all that so well, and I think he's going to come in and join this SEC, and obviously not even skip a beat of all the winning that they've been doing here lately. So Sarkisian's number 2, and then of course Kirby Smart is number 1. What is your top 6 down to number 1?
I'm looking at Sarkisian and just it's the one that I disagree with everybody, and he'll probably prove me wrong. He sucked. He sucked at Washington. He sucked. And then USC, he was not very good, and I know he went through the Saban rehab program. He's not proven. 12-win season last year, I get it. 12-2. Sign me up for that any day of the week. But 5-7, year 1, 8-5. I know he's getting better. We'll see. Number 2 coach in the SEC, and he is up there on so many lists, man. So many lists.
Well,
but
it's recency
I don't know.
bias too, because he just made the 14 playoff, obviously.
Sure. So where we at? 5, top 5.
6.
Josh,
6.
Okay, so I've got Steve Sarkisian at 6
okay.
for the reasons that I just laid out. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that and say I'm an idiot, and that's fine. I'm used to it. Josh Heupel at number 5 for obvious reasons. Like you said, he has changed the expectations. These young guys that think that Butch Jones was the guy at Tennessee, it's like they look back, well, that's the most success I've ever seen was Butch Jones because I'm so young. I didn't live through the 90s and the early 2000s when Fulmer was winning 10 games, and if you went 8-4, nobody was happy. And that's where we're at, because like you just said, nobody was happy with that 8-4 season last year. If they go 8-4 in 2024, there's going to be a lot of red flags going up about Josh Heupel. 9-3 to me is the floor, but it's just what he's done in such a short time and the way he's changed the culture. Number 4 for me, Lane Kiffin. And a lot of people hate Lane Kiffin, and I did too for quite a while. But it's like that breakup; you eventually get over it. He left Tennessee at the altar, and everybody hated him. He sucked at USC. Like, he had everything he needed for success at USC, and he didn't get it done. But he was so young, man. Like, he was so young at the time, and I think probably throughout that entire process, his time at USC, the time he spent with Saban, he probably learned so much, grew up, matured a little bit. He had the success at FAU. What he's done at Ole Miss. He's rebuilt that program. He's changed the expectations and the standards there. I'm a big Lane Kiffin fan, and I know he's a smart aleck, and he trolls on Twitter. I'm here for it. I think it's fun. Number 3 for me, Kalen DeBoer. You talked me out of it. I had him at number 2. and I almost dropped him even further. He's a guy that, because he's not done it in the SEC, but like you said, all he does is win. One of the 3 coaches on the list here that's coached in the national championship game. So I moved him to 3, Brian Kelly at 2. All the success in the world at Notre Dame. And then, a lot of questions when he came to LSU. A lot of questions. How would he handle coaching in the Southeastern Conference? How would he handle being in Louisiana? And then the fake Southern accent, all that stuff. And then what does he do? He goes out back-to-back 10-win seasons. So I bumped Brian Kelly to 2. Kirby Smart number 1 for obvious reasons. I hate. Yeah. Can we just not talk about Kirby Smart?
No, we're not. I mean, the topic of conversation is because of his extension. That's much we're going to get into him. I do not like Brian Kelly as a human being. Any everydayer of this show knows I'll drop crap about Brian Kelly throughout the year, but guy can coach, man. He can coach. He's done a heck of a job in the SEC, that is for sure. Hey, we'll end our show talking a little Tennessee transfer portal, some of the biggest gets from this past offseason. That is what you have to look forward to as we continue on here on a Monday, Locked On Vols. All right, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book. It is playoff time in the NBA, the NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets. That is guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the safe, secure, and easy-to-use app. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, it is America's #1 sports book. So big shout-outs to FanDuel. Big shout-outs to our friends over at Game Time. Right now, you put in that promo code LockedOnCollege, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. What is Game Time? Well, it is the app that is for buying tickets to not just sporting events, but it could be any event in your area. Comedy, concerts, monster truck rallies. They're doing stuff over there. I said this on the show last week. Last weekend, you had Tim McGraw at the Food City Center. Then the next night, you had Nelly and Bone Thugs and Harmony. I mean, take me back to the childhood, shall we? And the variety there. I mean, it was just incredible. And you could buy those tickets to those events over on the Game Time app. They got zone deals. You can save even more when you choose from a section like Game Time. Choose the seats for you. They have the lowest price guarantee where Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket elsewhere. All that is on the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. You can put in that promo code LockedOnCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. We'll continue on with the Monday edition of Locked On Vols when we return. All right, so we've talked SEC head coaches. We've put together our all-time creative Vols quarterback, so it's been fun. Got a couple minutes left. And I thought, let's spring ahead to summer, to fall camp, and, of course, to Tennessee football in 2024. Top 5 transfers, top 5 newcomers, but let's limit it to transfers. After we've seen spring practice a little bit, who are you most excited about seeing from the transfer portal in fall camp? At number 5, I will go Jacoby Thomas because I think he will be a starter for Tennessee. And I'm intrigued to see the similarities between him and Jalen McCullough, and if Jacoby Thomas gives Tennessee any more athletic ability back there, if he's quicker, if he can be a ball hawker more. I mean, we've seen Jalen play for 5 years, and Trayvon Flowers and Wesley Walker play for so long. It just feels like it. Are we going to see a different type of style of safety? We'll see. I'm intrigued. Jacoby Thomas would be number 5 for me. Who's number 5 for you?
I've got the same player, Jacoby Thomas. Yeah, you're making a big jump. This ain't MTSU. This is the SEC. Yeah. But and we'll see what happens, right? What I liked hearing, of course, it's been beat to death. The athleticism, like you just said, more athleticism, more speed in the secondary. That excites me. But when I heard that in one of the first practices of spring, it might have been practice number 1, that Jacoby Thomas is at the front of the line for the safeties, that tells me that either 1, he's the guy, or number 2, he's an alpha. He's gonna walk right up to the front of the line and say, "This is my spot. If you want it, you better come take it." So I've got him at number 5 as well.
Number 4, I'll go Holden Stays. Of course, we're going to play. Tennessee's going to play 2 tight ends. All right. You know that Ethan Davis has all the potential in the world. Durability is still a question about Ethan Davis for me. That's why the emergence of Miles Kitselman a little this spring helps me feel a little bit better about that room. Holden Staes can do a little bit of everything. I'm intrigued to see what he looks like in this offense, his adjustments and all that. But the tight end position is just so critical. And a lot of times people say, well, Tennessee didn't utilize the tight ends. They had 9 total touchdowns last year. And so I'm intrigued to see kind of how he can adjust in this system, because I think he can do a little bit of everything. I think he's a very well-rounded tight end. So Holden Staes number 4 for me.
Number 4 for me, Chris Brazil. 3 years of eligibility. Love his size. Obviously 6'5", a guy, 44 catches, 5 touchdowns at Tulane. And I've talked about him before. What I liked about his touch, everything was different. Every way that he got in the end zone was different. And going into spring, we're asking, right? We know we got Brew McCoy. We know we got Squirrel White. Who's going to be that other dude? Who's going to be the guy on the opposite side of Brew McCoy? Now I think we may have 2, Chris Brazil and Dante Thornton both, but we're focused on the transfer portal. But I think it was J.D. Piquel at on 3, got to take in a practice. And coming out of that practice, he said he felt like Tennessee had 4 wide receivers that could start just about anywhere in the country. That excites me, going from having a question about that other wide receiver to now we're saying maybe Dante Thornton and Chris Brazil both could have success there. Do you think we finally see at least a 6-man rotation at wide receiver? Just so much talent there. Not to call an audible on you at the final hour of the show here.
Well, yeah, the final couple of minutes here. Chris Brown going to be my number 3 for a 6-man rotation. I will say no. Do I think Thornton, Brazel, Squirrel, Brew, Mike Matthews, and then, for Webb and Nimrod, they just compete, man, and they didn't leave, and I like that so much. I think we see those 4 or 5 that I mentioned for sure. But, to your point, man, Tennessee can play a lot of guys, and it's going to be a super strength. I think that Dante Thornton is going to be who we thought he was last year, this year. I think Chris Brazel coming over has a lot of those same traits, just a little bit of a smaller, shorter body, but comes in with a production. And sure, I know it was at Tulane, but, dude still caught 7 touchdowns last year. That's being super productive. So I got Brazel there, number 3. And number 2 for me, or number 3, I guess, you got to give me your number 3.
Jamad McCoy. I think he's another young. It's interesting because he's a young guy. He's got 3 years of eligibility, but he's also got a little bit of experience. Right, played in every game at Oregon State as a true freshman. 31 tackles, 7 pass breakups. That's something. That's a theme that I keep harping on my channel. Is they're going after DBs that make plays, not just guys that are in the area, but guys that make plays. Also had a couple of interceptions. We did a film breakdown on him. Actually showed his Oregon State film on the Talkin VAWLS Network. Go check it out. Coach Jay, very high on him, and Coach Jay has a pretty dang good track record when it comes to film breakdowns and guys he thinks will be successful at Tennessee. So go check that out. But Jamad McCoy at corner, number 3 for me.
Jamad McCoy's number 2 for me, for again a lot of those same reasons. I feel like we're gonna have the same number 1. Who's your number 2?
No, mine's different. Number 2 for me is Lance Hurd. And I think I interpreted the question differently, maybe than the way you meant to present it. Top 5 portal gets from me. So Lance Hurd, a lot of people, I don't know. I think a lot of people do realize how big it was to land Lance Hurd. Obvious reasons. Gerald Mincy transfers out. You need a tackle. You get a tackle. You basically add a 5-star in the class of 2023. That's a 5-star prospect. The on 3 graded him as high as Mike Matthews. So think about that. As excited as everybody was when Mike Matthews committed, that's the type of prospect Lance Hurd was. So plenty of eligibility left, position of need. Lance Hurd, number 2 for me. I'll go ahead and roll into number 1 and let you wrap it up. Holden Staes and Miles Kitselman, because to me, top 5 portal gets. There's a difference between who I think the top 5 portal gets are and who I'm the most excited about. I'm probably the most excited about Jamad McCoy or even Chris Brazel, Gold Jacket, Green Jacket. Holden Staes, Miles Kitselman, because it was a position of need. Holden Staes was the number 1 tight end available in the portal, and you went and got him. Miles Kitselman's a guy that I'm like, okay, he's transferring in, whatever. We'll see what happens. And then you hear what he did in spring and that he's not just a blocker, that he's also athletic and can make plays in the passing game. That excites me. So top 5 portal gets number 1 because it was such a position of need. That tight end room was empty. I went with Holden Staes and Miles Kitselman.
Give Tennessee credit. Tennessee had to get a tight end. It went out there. It brought in Holden Staes. It brought in Jordan Dingle. Basically said, hey, whichever one wants in first, it's yours. Holden Sage jumped in. Jordan Dingle left during the middle of his visit. He went back to Kentucky, said, I never wanted to leave. I'm back. Mark Stoops says a bunch of stuff that's probably not true, and here we are. But Tennessee got Holden Sage. Tennessee got Jamal McCoy. Tennessee got Lance Hurd. Really good haul in the transfer class, and Lance Hurd's going to be my number 1 for, again, many of the reasons that you said. Number 5 is Jacoby Thomas. 4, Holden Sage. 3, Chris Brazzell. 2, Jamal McCoy. Number 1 is Lance Hurd. What's your top 5 again?
Jacoby Thomas at 5, Chris Brazzell, Gold Jacket, Green Jacket at number 4, Jamal McCoy at 3, Lance Hurd at 2, Holden Stace, and Miles Kitselman at number 1.
All right, list season here on a Monday because Cainer is on the road and we needed something easy, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Always fun off-season conversations. Tomorrow we'll do Mount Rushmore. Now, I joke, but literally at some point I will do Mount Rushmore because it's always engaging and topical in the off-season. I don't do it in sports radio, but I'll do it on this podcast. We'll do something tomorrow, but as always, man, appreciate you joining the show. Boogie, tell everybody what you got going on. You guys are playing video games on Tuesday nights. You got a live show on Wednesday nights. You got film breakdowns all the time. There's always something going on over the Talkin VAWLS Network.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of film breakdowns right now in the offseason, trying to when we get the schedule dialed in. NCAA nights every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, laid-back, chill stream. That's when we drink a little bourbon and have a little fun, so come hang out for that. We also do live streams for commitments, right? A lot of commitments coming up in June. We go live. We'll break down the recruitment. We'll say where we feel like this player is going to end up. We'll talk about all of that. We'll look at a little bit of film, scouting reports, all that fun stuff. We take you all the way up to the decision, and then if we can share that live stream, we share it. Man, you want to sit around by yourself and watch somebody stream it, or do you want to hang out with the boys and watch these live commitments? It's always a fun time, so that's what we got coming up. Busy summer of recruiting coming up on the Talkin VAWLS Network.
It is like the general's quarters, but you get to see them and you get to hear them and not just get to read them, but there's a lot of crossover there, I'm sure. It's what makes VolQuest, it's what makes your community so strong, and, of course, the community here on Locked On Vols. So, appreciative for it all because it means we get to do this for a living. Fun show as always, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it here in the off season. Still got a long way to go for football, but we'll get you there one step at a time closer right here on Locked On Vols. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody.